This summer, after Meep passed away, we felt like we needed a change of pace. So we headed to Europe for 5 weeks. In the next 6 videos, we're going to take you along as we explore Frankfurt, Germany, Vilnius, Lithuania, Riga, Latvia, Tallinn, Estonia, Stockholm, Sweden, and Vienna, Austria, before heading back to Mexico City and continuing on our Mexican adventures. We hope that you enjoy this holiday break from our regular programming. Yesterday, after arriving on our 8-hour flight, we weren't filling up for much, so we did walk around a little bit, check out the old town, and then we got an absolutely amazing meal. David got the pork knuckle, and I got a Jaeger schnitzel with like a mushroom sauce. It was a super awesome beginning to the trip, but after that we just went back to our hotel and crashed. We are staying at the JW Marriott. We used free nights from a credit card sign up, and this morning we have grabbed a cappuccino and we are ready to go and hit the ground running.
So the first church we stopped at was the Franciscan monastery, and we're getting ready to check out the Frankfurt Cathedral behind us. So the most impressive part of that church was definitely the organ.
Yeah, there were some really intricate sculptures and some very beautiful stained glass, but I have never seen an organ quite like that one. Also this morning we stopped in a little market and it was awesome. The produce display was beautiful, the meat section was amazing. It's one of those things that made me think that we could possibly spend a whole month here in Frankfurt and cook from mostly that market, because wow, it was really, really delicious looking. Next stop is the Old Town, which is actually completely rebuilt and recreated because during the war, everything was leveled except for the cathedral behind us. And so everything else they built in the style and tried to reconstruct the original buildings that were there.
So as you can see, they've done a really good job of rebuilding these buildings and kind of making them look like they did originally.
Yeah, they call this a new Old Town, and you definitely get that Old Town feel. It is absolutely packed with tourists, though, and a few things that I have noticed here so far in Frankfurt is, number one, I think the entire society just functions on caffeine and nicotine, because almost every other building is a cafe, and everyone is outside smoking. Secondly, there is a bit more litter than I would have expected. Things are a little dirtier than I would have thought. I don't know, Europe has a kind of a reputation for being pristine and clean. Not so much. And then also here they have a huge immigrant population. It looks like there are a lot of people of Muslim descent here. I had heard that they had taken in a lot of refugees during like the Syrian war. And you can definitely see that here as well. And there are tons of tourists from all over Asia. Funny enough, the restaurant we went to the other night, I think we were one of the only tables that wasn't Asian. They were Koreans and Japanese people sitting in the restaurant. I think they do their research and it was listed as one of the top restaurants in Frankfurt. So we were all there, but it was delicious. I do recommend it.
We continued exploring Frankfurt on foot, crossing the Iron Bridge and getting a great view of the city and the Main River. By this time, we started to get very hungry, so we headed on to find some traditional German food.
Here we got the Symphony of Sausages. You can see Dan's got a little pretzel left. I had some too. It came with 2 different cream cheeses. This one's quite oniony, and this one's a little bit mustardy. Super delicious. David got the wheat beer, and I got the apple wine.
With full bellies, we were ready to check out the Frankfurt History Museum. The first exhibit showed what Frankfurt looked like before the war and immediately after. There was one exhibit where they had a snow globe with a little robot that would switch out the scenes from different neighborhoods of Frankfurt at different times in history. The European Central Bank is located here in Frankfurt, and they have a really cool sculpture outside of the building.
After a day full of museums and churches and wandering around the city, we decided to stop and get something to eat.
Well, first, we actually stopped at a festival where they had, it was their green sauce festival, but we tried quite a few different apple wines. Yes, apple wine is one of my new favorite things. I thought it would be sweet, kind of like a cider, but it's not. It tastes more like a dry wine. So, well, actually, some of them taste like beer. Some of them are beer-like, some of them are wine-like. We really enjoyed them. I think I've had 4 different versions of apple wine today, and I might go find another version soon. But we tried quite a few different sausages today as well. And I have to say, all the German food we've had so far has been super, super delicious.
Today is our second and last full day here in Frankfurt.
So our first stop is going to be to go check out St. Paul's Church, and then after that I think we're going to make our way over to the Jewish Museum before stopping at a restaurant to try schnitzel with green sauce. I did read online that there were a few things that you absolutely had to try when you came to Frankfurt. One, of course, was sausages. The second was schnitzel, then green sauce, pork knuckle, and apple vine.
Apple
so
vine.
The only thing we've got left at this point is the green sauce.
There were tons of gorgeous pieces involved in Jewish traditions and celebrations. Anne Frank's family was originally from Frankfurt, and her father Otto moved them to Amsterdam after Hitler took power. So part of the museum is dedicated to telling their family story. At the end, you can see publications of Anne's diary in various languages.
So we just finished up our tour at the Jewish Museum.
It was definitely one of the better museums we've been to. I think we spent more time in there than we normally do. They had a lot of things to look at, a lot of things to read. They had little video clips to watch. They had, little sound bites you could listen to with little headsets. And they went over both like pre-Holocaust, Holocaust, as well as how Jewish people tried to kind of put their lives back together. And then there was a floor that was just dedicated to the Rothschild family, as well as the Frank family, from Anne and Margot Frank.
And something else I found very interesting is that the persecution of the Jewish people went way back further than I thought it did.
Yeah, it said something like in the late 1700s, Jewish people were finally allowed to move outside of the Jewish ghetto neighborhood. So apparently a lot of the animosity was just because after moving out of the ghetto, they
did really good.
did really well for themselves and ended up moving into mansions in the center of town. And apparently that upset some people because they weren't quite as successful. So very sad story and very interesting to learn that prehistory because that's not something I've learned about before.
Yeah.
Alright, so David here has the cheesed stuffed sausages with roasted potatoes and a little bit of sauerkraut and mustard. I have a giant pile of roasted potatoes, a gigantic salad, the ever famous green sauce with eggs, and then a full schnitzel over here. I got the rosé and David got a Kirsch beer, I think?
Dunkel.
Oh, okay.
So we just finished up our dinner at Mother Ernst.
It was yet another fantastic meal, I have to say. I think we really, really like German food. I got the fried pork chop, which was fried super crispy and came with a warm potato salad that had like mustard and onions and parsley. Super, super delicious.
And I got the meatloaf, which isn't like the American meatloaf you would think of. It's kind of like a fried Spam with an egg on top. And I also had the potato salad.
I wouldn't say it tasted anything like Spam.
No,
It was a much, much, much better flavor than Spam, but it was a similar like consistency. We also finished with their little signature drink that we've seen a lot of people get around here in Frankfurt. I can't remember the name. We'll put the name on the screen here. But basically, it is like a kind of schnapps.
The little apple in it or something?
Yeah. But it's not super sweet. It's not like the schnapps that you get in America. It's a much stronger drink. And I got an apple vine, of course, because I love the apple vine.
And I got a Dunkel beer.
But overall, super delicious. And honestly, I would say that the prices here really aren't that different than the prices we experienced in Mexico, especially since the exchange rate has gotten less and less favorable the longer that we have been there. And that was a very nice restaurant. It's good atmosphere, very good service. And so I would say in Mexico, we probably would have paid about 1,500 pesos for that meal. And here the meal after tip was 59 euro. So very, very similar in cost. And one thing that we've really, really, really liked about Frankfurt is that the atmosphere is very like chill. It's very laid back. There are tons of really, really wide walking streets that are just lined with tons of cafes and bars and restaurants, and everyone sits outside. This is another thing we've noticed.
Yeah, you go inside the restaurant, there'll be nobody in there.
Yes, you usually have to have reservations to sit outside because everyone wants to sit outside so they can smoke, because literally everyone smokes here. So the inside of the restaurant's almost completely empty when you walk in. So if you don't have a reservation, you have to sit inside, but we don't mind that at all. So that is a good thing to know about Frankfurt, but we've really, really enjoyed our time here. Like I said, I think the vibe is the thing we've liked most, is that it is very laid back and people are friendly. They're just not overtly friendly.
Right.
So they're always very polite. They're very helpful, but strangers aren't going to come up and talk to you either. So it's a friendly enough place. But we've really enjoyed it.